Today, I'm going to convince you that one thing that is coming in the way of us and a wonderful life, a great career, is this constant, this obsessive desire to seek excitement. And I'll also convince you, hopefully, that boredom, to some extent, it's a wonderful thing. Let's accept and embrace it. But let me start with this story, my own personal experience. In 2003, when I was serving as the Trivandrum Police Commissioner, one day I got a phone call in the evening at around 9 o'clock that in this area called Puntra, it's a small, slightly remote area within Trivandrum city, there was a small clash between two different religious communities. There was some procession going on, somebody threw some stones, and there was some issue. And it's such a sensitive area that if you don't intervene immediately, people will get killed. So naturally, we all went there. I was there. And for next almost 12 hours, I was there. Doing what? Nothing, just standing there. It was tiring, exhausting, boring as hell. It would just blow your mind away. 10 to 12 hours standing there doing nothing, surrounded by a bunch of policemen. And yet, if we had not done that, probably there would have been a serious riot and people might have been killed. Now think about it. Indian Police Service, where I worked for 8 years, it is considered to be a pretty glamorous career. And within that service, working as a Commissioner of Police in Trivandrum City, again, it's probably one of the most important assignments. And yet, what we see here is that even things that look so glamorous from outside, at the end of it, when you have to do those jobs well, they require you to persist and face boredom and accept boredom. And yet, so rarely are we willing to do that today. Think about somebody who's driving in a car and a traffic stop comes, red light, and you have to stop. What is the first thing we do? Most of us, again, I don't blame them. This is a very common tendency. All of us, we have this tendency. Traffic stop, don't know what to do, pick up the phone, check a message. You're at the airport. In fact, next time you see that people are waiting there, what do? Everybody has the phone out. In fact, even friends meet for dinner and phones are out. Again, I'm not being judgmental. I'm just making a factual observation. And what this tells us is that we are just not comfortable with even 30 seconds of boredom. We want this constant excitement. We want something new, something to be happening all the time. So much so that there was a study done, a research study in which a bunch of participants, youngsters, they were taken to a room and they were asked to sit there between 10 to 15 minutes doing nothing. No phone, no activity, nothing, but they had one option. On the table, there was a switch, and if they press the switch, it would give them a painful electric shock. All right? And they left those people there. And what did they find? They found that about 60% of guys, men who were part of the study, they gave themselves a shock once or more. Even 10 to 15 minutes of boredom was so overwhelming that people were willing to give themselves a painful shock deliberately, and some people did it multiple times. Now again, what is this telling us? Boredom is so painful that we would rather take an electric shock. And that is what should shock us. And why is that? Because now I'll convince you that boredom is our friend. I'm not saying we should be bored all our life. I'm not also saying we should never seek excitement. But if we are obsessively running away from boredom, we are harming ourselves incalculably. And let me tell you why. Number one, any big goal that you want to pursue, whether you want to learn a skill, build a career, you might be Elon Musk, it doesn't matter. If you want to build a company like Blue Origin or SpaceX or all these companies which are now sending people into space, or if you're Musk and you want to build Tesla, it doesn't matter. You have to understand things. You have to go through manuals. You have to go through research. In fact, there are stories that Elon Musk would go through these old Russian books on rocketry. You can imagine how dense and boring, by some standard, they could be called very boring. So we think his life is exciting, but actually it takes a lot of tedious work. We hear about these scientists who have done path-breaking research. But if you start doing serious research, join a PhD program, what do? 99% of your time, you are doing things which will be considered, normally most people would say, those things are boring. You're looking at Let's say you're doing a literature survey. What is the research other people have done? Going through lots and lots of papers, just cataloging things. So boring. By some standard, they may not find it boring, but most of us will. The point is, if we seek excitement all the time, and if we cannot tolerate boredom, we cannot live a meaningful life. Like the example I gave you earlier, even things that look glamorous from outside, they can be incredibly boring. Think about being an army officer and you are posted on the border. It looks exciting, right? You see those movies and it's pretty exciting. What are you doing most of the time? Doing nothing. I remember during my army attachment as part of the IPS training, we would talk to these officers who would say we would be posted, let's say, near the airport in terrorist-affected areas, and there in hot sun, it's burning, and you have your helmet on and shield and the bulletproof jacket, and it's sweltering hot, and you stand there for 6 hours doing nothing. I'm not saying that's a life you should try to seek or that's what you should do, but the point is, if we want to live a meaningful life, whether we want to be an entrepreneur or a scientist or an educator, or it doesn't matter what career, we have to be willing to accept boredom. This is a very fundamental but undeniable truth. All right? So that is why don't run away from it. Once in a while, be comfortable with boredom. Next, when we are constantly seeking excitement, what do? We get addicted. Most of our smartphone addictions, why do they happen? Because our brain has been rewired to always get some input. You go and check, let's say you're getting bored and you check your phone. You check WhatsApp and there is no new message. What happens? Your mind goes crazy. Let me check Instagram. Nothing new there. You go and check something else. We are running around like a monkey. Why do we do that? Because again, our mind is craving for some excitement. For God's sake, let something come. Again, big problem. I'm not saying this is the only reason for addiction, but seeking of excitement is one of the reasons for lots of different types of addictions. Next, when you are bored, what happens? There's nothing to do. I'm just sitting there. And then in that case, my mind will sometimes wander. It'll go here, there. Now, mind wandering is not always a good thing, but there is a positive side to it. Your mind may go and pick up some new ideas. You may become more creative. In fact, research has shown that when you're bored a little bit, when you're not like deep into some activity, that is when your mind will come up with new ideas. So if you want to be creative, you have to be absolutely be willing to get bored or to give yourself time when you do nothing. It is super critical. And finally, when we are always caught up in activity, what happens? We are in that survival mode. Somehow just keep going, make sure nothing wrong happens. I would give an analogy. Think about a war going on. And there are these soldiers in the trenches with machine gun nests, and they are being fired from the opposite side. When you are under constant fire, can you think about, okay, maybe there is an approach from the other side. Maybe there's another way to attack. No, because then you're just trying to stay alive. But the person who is not in the trench, he or she can see the big picture and then suggest, oh, you know what? There is a better way to handle the enemy. In fact, that is the reason why soldiers are in the trenches, but the generals, they don't plan in the trenches. They stay in the war room. It's not because they are cowards, because when you are under fire, you can't think. Similarly, when we are constantly bombarded with our smartphones, we're constantly seeking some excitement. Our mind cannot look at the big picture. It cannot think about, okay, what should I be doing next year? Where am I in my life right now? Am I doing the right thing? Is the right direction? We will not have the chance to reflect. So if you want to have this opportunity to reflect, see where you stand in life, what's the right direction to go in, you need to give yourself a break from this bombardment of things that feel exciting. So I hope I have convinced you that if you are not willing to embrace boredom to some extent and to be able to override this natural obsessive urge for excitement, you are doing a serious harm to your career. Stop doing it. Maybe every Sunday, take a couple of hours, do nothing, and see what happens. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Thank you for watching.